Welcome to Foam to Fortune, the ultimate podcast for spray foam insulation industry. Whether you're a contractor aiming to take your business to the next level or a vendor bringing innovation to the market, this is the place where success stories are shared, insider tips are uncovered, and the industry secrets are revealed. Join us as we dive into the journeys of the spray foam pros who turn their dreams into thriving empires and discover tools and strategies to build your own path to fortune. Ready to elevate your spray foam game? Let's get started. Foam to Fortune, where innovation meets inspiration. What's up, guys? I'm Spencer, the host of the Foam to Fortune podcast. And guess what? We have an amazing guest out of Richmond, California. His name is Rami Corey. He is the owner of Noble Insulation. And Rami has been in the game 20 plus years, you guys. And Rami has a true Foam to Fortune story that I can't wait to share with you guys. What's up, Rami? Welcome to the show.
Hey, Spencer. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well, man. For those that don't know Rami Corey, give us a little bit of history, man, because your story is impressive.
Okay. So I'm born and raised out here in the Bay Area, Northern California, general San Francisco area. I fell into the foam industry back in 2006. I was exiting high school at the time, or right around 17 years old, and just kind of fell into it. Got invited to come work on a spray foam crew, and the boss man said show up on Monday, and I showed up, and it was life changing to say the least.
Yeah, and so when you first started, what were you doing? I mean, you shared with me pre-show. You showed up, and the boss said, "Start wrapping the hose with tape."
Oh yeah. So yeah, I show up. He had a shop in South San Francisco, California, and I just saw all this hose with electrical wires hanging out of it, and just a box of duct tape, and a guy named Don Kane, who was my trainer at the time. He was who I was going to be helping. He was the sprayer. He's like, just start wrapping. He's like, with a 1/4 inch overlap, you got to wrap the whole thing. And it was like 350 feet of hose. I was like, wow, this is a labor intensive job. You go home, your hands hurt, your back hurts, and you don't know if it's for you.
Yeah, and you're kind of wondering, probably, is this rookie hazing? Is this just what they do to the rookies?
That's exactly what it is. There's a whole lot of rookie hazing, especially for the young bucks.
Yeah, so you started off wrapping hose, eventually transitioned into to being a helper, a scraper, and then you eventually got to where you said that you're enjoying watching these guys spray foam and watching the expansion. And you're like, I want to do that.
Yeah. So, first day goes by, I wrap the hose. Second day, we're doing a winery up in Napa, and Big Don Kane's up there on the lift. And my primary job for the day was to not let the lift roll over the hose. And of course, I let it roll over the hose, and I got in tons of trouble. Don's screaming down at me because he's old school, and he's like just yelling down at me. But anyway, I saw the foam expand, and I said, I could probably handle doing that. I think I could do that. So that's when the real training begun. I was Don Kane's right-hand man, or his helper, for probably about 6 months. And then Don moved from a spraying position at the company to manager of managing. He was managing 4 teams at that time. And then I moved into a spray position. So I kind of took his spot, and then he stepped up to manager. And then I was spraying full time at that company for about 5 years.
Yeah. Amazing, man. Amazing. And you transitioned about 8 years ago, you said, and decided to start your own thing with Noble. Share with the listeners and the viewers about how, let's just chat about the fortune piece of this, because pre-show you told me you guys are on track to hit some pretty decent numbers, in my opinion, for a guy that's only been in business for 8 years.
Yeah. So, I mean, very humble beginnings, man. I got hired at the shop, making $12 an hour, wrapping hose, scraping foam, being a helper, and then earned my way up to be a sprayer there. I was spraying there for 5 years. They moved me into management. They revealed the spray foam business for me. So when I was getting training there, I felt like I was learning the entire business. I grew there financially, and I was a very loyal employee. I was a loyal dog to that company. But during that tenure there, I did get my contractor's license, and that was like a shock to the company. They instantly saw a potential competitor. So I didn't know that at the time. I just did it because I thought it was the thing to do. I thought it was the natural progression. I was like, well, I want to be a contractor one day, so I'm just going to get my contractor's license.
Yeah.
So in order to get your contractor's license in California, you need your boss to sign off on it. So that's how we found out about it. I walk in his office, he signs off on it. And then from there, and it was a big deal. And so he's like, well, what are you going to do with that contractor's license? I was like, I'm loyal to you, so I don't plan on leaving. He's like, well, let's start a company down the line. And that was about 5 or 6 years in. And then, 5 years pass or 4 years pass. And then just that dream kind of just faded. I just noticed that we didn't really talk about it that often. And it was just kind of like, this is my future. Like, I'm just going to be here. So that's when I decided, I want something more for myself. Let's try to transition into actually functioning under this license. Kind of simultaneous to this, I did get sensitization to ISO real bad. Because just 5, 6 years, 7 years, 8 years in the game, you have to be really diligent with your mask. And if you're not, you get lazy, you get sensitized. So that happened to me. I was looking at getting out of the foam business completely. I was like, forget about foam. Let's go in a different direction. So I actually moved temporarily to Las Vegas. I'm sitting back in Las Vegas. I got a nice apartment. I got a beautiful girl at the time. I got a brand new dog. My dog's name is Noble. And my buddy, who I grew up spraying with, he's like, look, man, I started a company, but I don't have a license. So I was like, how about I step in as the RMO and we function at your company for a bit together until I figure out what I'm going to do. And I step in over there for about a year, and they were talking about full-time partnership. And I just realized, I was like, maybe that's not for me. And that's when the idea of Noble Installation was birthed. When I realized I wanted to leave there, I was back in the industry, and that's what happened. That was the process.
Wow. So take us back to the early days when you were scraping the walls. Did you ever imagine that you'd be running a multi-million-dollar spray foam company?
I definitely did not. I was convinced this was not my future. When you get that feeling of the ISO hitting your lungs and you can't breathe and you feel like an elephant's on your chest and you're getting paid, 15, 17 bucks an hour. You're just like, screw this. I'm done with foam. And, I just toughed it out. That's the one thing about me is I'm a really persistent, I'm a gritty individual. So I'm not a quitter. So basically I just toughed it out through the years. And if you tough it out and you give your all to anything, I believe that anything's possible. And I'm living proof because I was making 12 bucks an hour scraping foam, and then now we're running 7 figures per year. So it's a big progression that happened, and anybody could do it. You just got to have, it's just risk. You have to be willing to assume risk. And that's really what it boils down to.
Man, that's impressive. Like scraping walls for not much money to now running a multi-million-dollar spray foam company. And truly, like, it sounds like just by chance you decided to get back in the game because having ISO issues was having you kind of decide like, this isn't for me. This is crazy. Like I'm not going to go get risk my health for this. So what was like the first big turning point where you realized that this wasn't a job anymore, that this can be a real business? Was there like kind of this aha moment for you, Rami?
Yeah. So at my previous employer, I was spraying foam for 5 years, and I would say I was a good foamer, a good sprayer, but I was still having a hard time with it. At that 5-year mark, I kind of really got a hang of laying the closed cell flat and spraying the open cell just fill, not really overfilling the cavity. And I feel like I kind of developed the strength to spray well after that 5 years. Then I left the field and went into sales and management and whatnot. And when I re-entered, I was hitting some weights. I got a little bit stronger. And when I re-entered the field, I noticed my spray game was a lot stronger. After that hiatus into the office for a bit, I noticed came back. I was better educated on the foam. I had time to watch YouTube videos and research the TDS sheets. Because up in the sales office, you know, when a sale comes in, you're selling, but when you're not, you should be educating yourself. So I was, and I felt like with a larger knowledge, I was able to step back into the field and hit it harder. Then I realized I kind of really I had something going here. You know, I'm
Yeah.
better than everybody else here at foaming. I know how to spray. That's the way I felt at that 5 or 6 year mark. I was like, you know, these other guys aren't me. And I
Mhm.
had other people in my ear telling me too. Don Kane was like, hey, you're way better than these other foamers over here. So I'm like, all right, well, you know, just like every 5 or 6 year foamer, the ego is out of control. It was a fire at that point.
Yeah. So you're recommending everybody to go hit the weight room, that it's going to help with their spray game. Is that what I
I
hear?
Well, I think it's going to keep you from getting injuries. Um,
True.
if you build muscle up around the joints and stuff, it keeps you from burning the joint. So it'll help for sure. I'm not saying
Yeah.
you got to be big buff bodybuilder, but just do some repairing exercises. Just um, that's what helped me, because I used to be a little scrawny dude, 120 pounds, toting a big hose around, and we
Hmm.
used a lot smaller guns back then. We used a Gap gun, and that's like a way smaller gun than the Fusion gun. The Fusion gun's like a big old coffee can.
Yeah.
The Gap gun was a nice little sleek model, so even that gun was heavy for me back then. Now, you know, I'll carry a Gap gun like it's a paint gun. You know, so it's nice having a little bit of strength on you when you're spraying. I would recommend it for sure.
You guys still spray with the Fusion PC? That your
We Yeah,
go-to?
we love the Fusion. We love the Fusion PC. The Fusion
Yeah.
PC is that right there is hours of a sprayer's life. You know, back in the day when we would break down, It was a full day of rebuilding the gun, because you have to clean everything, and now it's like just smack in a cartridge and go. And if you really shut down that cartridge correct, I have cartridges we've been running for months. You know,
Mhm.
6 months, 6 month cartridge. It's $150 part. It's worth it every penny for
Yeah.
sure. That's
Is
that's that's an amazing change.
is that one of your best pieces of equipment that you would invest in time and time and time again?
I would have to agree with that. I don't think there's a better gun on the market myself.
You're a
I,
little
I
bit
think the
biased,
PC.
but you've been in the game long enough to try out. I'm guessing a lot of guns, and you've seen a lot of equipment.
Yeah, yeah. You know, I went from the Gap gun at my previous employer, and then we went just to pretty much to the Fusion PC, and that was no, we went Fusion, the regular Fusion, and then when I saw that cartridge come out, I was like, nah, that's the golden ticket right there. You know, that was a game changer for me personally.
Y-
My squad, we all love it. Just a lot less training.
Yeah, for sure. Are you currently still in the field spraying projects, or are you just managing?
So we have two really good sprayers. We have two rigs that we run. One rig full time, and then the other rig about half the time. And the main sprayer, he's a beast. He can spray hard all day long, run through a set and some change pretty much every day of the week, open cell or closed cell. Um, but when I see him tired or something, or it's a really hard application, like maybe a finished foam application where it's in a metal building where it's going to be left exposed, it's not
Mhm.
covered by sheetrock, that can take a little bit more precision. So then I might step in and spray. But
Yeah.
day to day, I want to stay off of the gun. I want to be focused on the business. I want to be selling. I want to be growing the business, because growing the business is what they don't tell you when you're starting a business is the business side of it is actually harder than the trade itself.
Yeah.
Spraying foam, I tip my hat to every sprayer. Spraying foam is difficult. We all know what it takes. It's a very difficult trade. Whoever does it full time all year, I respect you. You're a real man, for sure. But that's the cool part. And that is the part where you put that mask on and the world disappears. You focus on your trade. You don't have your phone ringing 30, 40 times a day.
Hmm.
It's almost therapeutic. But when you step into the business side of things, you have to learn how to bite your tongue with customers. You deal with crazy customers. You deal with cool customers. You deal with everybody's amazing, right? But
Hmm.
they're spending money with your company. But there's some quirky people out there, man. So you got to really know how to manage people and that's the really kind of difficult part, is the business part, I would say, transitioning from a foamer to a businessman.
Yeah, and I think you hit the nail on the head. It's dealing with the people, right? I'm sure everybody that you guys deal with thinks that they're spray foam experts because they've seen something online or they've done some research, and now they're saying, Rami, my foam doesn't look like this picture. Like, well, it's not even the right, type of foam or application or whatever the case is. There's so much knowledge from just your average consumer that's taken you 20 plus years to learn. And so dealing with those people is probably the hardest part of the business, and especially as the owner, because you have a lot of pride in this, I can tell.
Yeah, I mean, we love the foam is I've been doing it since 17 years old. I'm 36. I'm about to be 37. I'm coming up on pretty much my 20th year being in the business, and I've never had another job. I don't plan on having another job. So I like to call myself like a resident of the foam industry. I don't plan on going anywhere. Out here in our in our area, the Bay Area, it seems like everybody that can put together $100,000 buys a spray foam rig, whether they're licensed or not. So we have a lot of people pillaging our market. Yeah. And then people like me that are here to stay have to clean up the mess that they make. So it's like, I don't plan on ever leaving, and I don't want to leave, but it's really hard to function in this current market because everybody's just popping in, and they're just, you got $100,000, you got a buddy that's got a license or some experience spraying foam, and then he goes and applies for a license, and then now you have a new competitor on the market. It doesn't even require a warehouse. You could literally park a rig in front of somebody's house. They go buy a couple sets at the local supplier, and now you have a legit competitor. These guys are taking jobs, and more power to them. Everybody starts somewhere, but when it gets so convoluted with like 100 competitors, it brings a market down. Our market should be a high-end, high-priced market because of the cost of living is so extreme here.
Yeah.
So we need to maintain high prices in order to survive. But when you have these consistent entry of competitors that last 6 months and then fizzle, last 6 months and then fizzle, last 6 months and then fizzle, it's just torturing the market. So our market is more closer. Like, we charge similar to like what people charge in areas where home values are half of the price. So it's like we're fighting for these jobs, and there's a lot of pillaging of our market, which is unfortunate. It's just a rough situation, but like I said, we're here to stay, and we will tough it out. But that's just the reality right now.
Yeah, for sure, and it's difficult, I think, when you're competing with the people that are trying to essentially get to the bottom, race to the bottom. We're having some camera issues here, so give us just a second. There we are. We're back. We'll cut that out, but yeah. So when the competition, and we'll talk about this a little bit later in the show, Rami, because I think it's a good topic on how do we get where a company like yourself and the expertise that you have separates yourself from, say for example, myself that can go and buy a rig like you're talking about $100K, and then I got a spray foam business competing with you, and I have no reason to be in this business because I don't know jack. And you have 20 years of experience. So it's really, and on paper or on Google, I guess I should say, when somebody Googles within your local marketplace, if I know what the heck I'm doing with marketing, I can be right there with you and be having a conversation with a homeowner that I could be taking, food off your table. And there's no reason a guy like myself that's new in business should take food from a guy that has 20 years of experience in this game. So yeah, that's difficult. Most definitely, I think everybody that's tuning in can relate to your story, Rami, because it's happening nationwide. It's just not in the Bay Area. So is there something that really stands out that was a big mistake that happened back when you first started? Like when you're early on, that almost took you out. But what you do today is differently than when would you do something different today than when you first started, knowing what you know now?
So,
Hey, Foam Fam, real talk. You're up early in attics, busting your butt all day. Is your Google business profile sleeping? If your name isn't showing up when people are searching spray foam near me, then you're losing out on jobs to Chuck and his rusty van. We over here at Spray Foam Genius Marketing will fix that for you. From SEO to Google business profiles to websites, yeah, we do all that nerdy stuff. This way, you stay booked solid. If you want more leads without getting the bad ones, hit us up at sprayfoamgeniusmarketing.com and let's turn your foam into fortune.
So wearing a mask is not, it's not an option. It's required. And there is no, like, even if guys were spraying earlier that day, you still wear your mask during cleanup, because if you do 10 days of cleanup in a row without a mask, that's enough to hit your ceiling for your ISO exposure. And people don't take these types of things serious. As a young buck, in your 20s, you think you're going to live forever, so you're quick to take your mask off for whatever reason. Talking to my younger self, I would just not allow that to happen at all, any exposures whatsoever. The biggest mistake in my career was there was a severe gun malfunction where on the old Gap gun, the chamber stuck out of the gun, like I don't know, that much. And because it was exposed, it was prone to, like, if you're in a crawl space or something, you could swing it, ding it on a pipe, and it would break the tip. We would break our tips. The fusion gun, the chamber is like within the housing of the gun. It never exits it. So there's no chance you could like break it. But the Gap gun, it stuck out. So it was literally one of the first times I was ever going to spray foam. Don was like, hey, yeah, go give it a shot in that crawl space. I go under there, and at the time, what we were doing, we were taping our air hose to the hose and just wearing the mask. So if you had to navigate, you had to bring the hose with you. But anyway, I'm under there. I swing the gun. It dings on a copper pipe, and it just breaks. I just hear it's like, bing. And instead of breaking flush on the face of the gun, which wouldn't be a problem, it would have been just replace the tip. It actually broke like into the gun, into the fluid section. So what happened was A side was able to leak out of the gun at a large volume, and then while the air was still running. So we're talking about like massive A side vapor mist being pumped into this crawl space, and I just panicked. I didn't know how serious it was. So I just yanked my mask off. And I was like, well, I can yank it to the crawl space exit. But by the time I made it to the exit, it was way too late. And we're talking about a very severe ISO exposure, enough to put somebody out of the game. But just me being who I am, just being an idiot, just stayed with the business and just toughed it out. And I thank God I did. At the same time, I don't, because I'm scared I might have some long-term serious health hazards from this. But at the same time, that was my biggest mistake, was taking on my mask in that situation and crawling out of that crawl space without a mask, because I couldn't breathe right for like months. It was bad. It was really bad. And that primary exposure was enough to ruin one's career. You will be dealing with it forever after a big one like that.
Was that, correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounded like you're kind of up until this point, or was this the one and only time after this situation were you really diligent to wear your mask and to be, protected?
After that, it was micro exposures. It was just like you're spraying, your air hose is set up, and you're close to the door. Oh, the door is right there. Just smack your mask off real quick, run out, and you're okay. But you're actually not, because even 10 feet outside the door, there's still fumes pouring out of that building. So you just want to be safe. Now my protocol is I enter the house with my air mask and spray till I'm done spraying, and then I leave the house with the air mask on. And my team all knows the deal. They all help me out with the hose and all that shit.
Yeah. So, so micro exposures really not a huge thing, but that one major exposure made you essentially ISO rate, like that one thing. I don't know much about this because I've never sprayed foam, Rami, but it sounds to me that these young bucks, hopefully, that are tuning in, that they really take this stuff seriously, because there's a lot of guys that I know that they hit that threshold and they're done. They're donezo. They can't be around this stuff at all. And I don't know, really, it sounds to me like it doesn't take a whole lot. You had that one major exposure. You couldn't breathe right for a long time, you said, and then a couple micro things, and now you're having some issues or had issues before you came back to the game. So, those that are tuning in, make sure you're taking care of your health and wearing your PPF because, or I guess PPE. Sorry, and
Yeah, that's beautiful.
making sure that you're protected. So, man, that's crazy that it was really just that one major mistake, and it's affecting you
Takes
even to
one.
today. Do you still have any kind of aftermath stuff that's happening to you now?
Yeah. All it takes is a micro exposure. All it takes is being in the house for just 2 seconds, like 3 seconds, three full inhalations, and you're going home wheezing. So it will ruin your career if you get a bad one like I did earlier in your career. You're toast. But just I don't know why I stuck with it. I just did, and now I like to describe spraying foam almost like flying a plane, kind of like a lot of pilots. They get kind of tired of flying for the airlines because you're flying on the airline's terms. You're like, you got to fly through the storm whether you like it or not, and the pilot's like, well, I don't, I get tired of that shit. So same with spraying foam, well, you get kind of tired spraying foam on somebody else's terms,
Yeah.
like, look, this job's got to get done today. It's like, well, dude, I'm already having a hard time in my lungs. I want to go home for the day, take a breather, and then I'll come and knock it out tomorrow. When you're working for yourself, you can actually make those calls. When you're working for a corporate beast, the corporate beast don't stop. It doesn't care about your health. They're going to use you
Mhm.
up and they're going to toss you.
Yeah.
So
You're just a number.
you're just a number. So it's kind of nice to be able to spray foam on your terms. So that's kind of some like ideology that I created for myself. It's like, I'm cool with spraying foam, but I want it to be on my terms. I want everything to be done right in here. I want ventilation set up. I want my big air machine in outside pumping a lot of air in my mask. I want everything perfect, or else I'm not messing with it.
What do you guys use? You guys use a Tennessee chill box?
We
Or
use
just
a unit called
yeah.
an EDP 16 by Bullard. It's a 2-man. It's a big freaking. If you try to carry it with one guy, you're looking at some back problems. It's better to carry it with two people. It pumps a lot of air into your mask. It's a really nice unit. Uh,
Nice.
in California, Northern California, we have some of the nicest weather in the world. Very temperate. A lot of 60s and 70s. Really perfect weather to spray foam in. So we don't
Mhm.
really deal with extreme heat. Some of these guys are doing, and we don't need the cold air, refrigerated air. We don't need
Yeah.
any of that. We just an air mask is plenty.
Nice fresh air coming in, so you have to worry about that. That's good.
It's critical.
How do you guys balance the growing with Noble, like the growth and not growing too quickly, but also having growth within the business and like what's that look like now that you guys have scaled?
So Noble Insulation is like 6 years in running of actual like being on the books, an official company. There was like a year of ramping up where we did like one job and we were technically a company, but it was
Yeah.
like a $9,000 year. Our first job, we did a grow house in San Francisco in the Hunters Point Bayview district, which is like a very ominous area known for violence and crazy
Okay.
activity. It's just a wild. At least in the '90s, it was known for just like, you don't even drive your car through there. But
Yeah.
then like the growers, bought it up. So we spray a big grow house, closed cell. It was like a set and a half of closed cell, um, and it was like a $9,000 job. And then the next year, our first formidable year, we did like about 300K, and then the next year we did about 600K. So some growth, right?
Yeah.
And then from that 600, we did 9. And then from that
Whoa.
9, we did 1.1 or something, right around 1.1. And then from that 1.1, we're doing like 1 point and some change, right? So for the first few years, we're like rapid, like bang, big number, big growth, doubling in yearly revenue. But
Mhm.
then like once we hit that 1 million mark, it's been slow. It's been slow growth, but
Yeah.
good growth. And the biggest, I would say, the thing that kind of like shifted was, I don't know how to explain it, but like just eliminating the fear of the sale. You know, like sometimes as an estimator, you're like scared to go below your set number that you have in your head. But
Hmm.
this is about making deals. You know, you got to make deals. You got to put numbers on the board. So
Yeah.
if it for me, I'd rather spray foam for $1,000 cheaper than to not spray foam at all. Okay, so and that's just you got to learn how to make deals with people, and you can't just be always so rigid. And then once you become more fluid with your sales, just thought process, then I think you get further like that. I think your numbers start coming in, and people want to do business with somebody that's not so rigid. You know, so
Yeah,
people like that.
that makes sense. I mean, you guys, what Rami's talking about here is having being satisfied with just a slice of the pie. Not you don't have to have the whole pie. Like you're like, I'll take a couple slices. I don't have to have the whole thing, and being able to be flexible because I think, you know, sometimes these homeowners get stuck on, well, this other company's $1,000 cheaper. I like Rami, but like they're cheaper. And if you're just like, nope, this is our price, you're gonna lose out on that potential revenue. And obviously this has worked well for you guys, this mindset. Are you doing a lot of the sales, or do you have a salesperson that kind of has the flexibility to be able to kind of work with the customers?
So at about we've had sales associates. I hired my brother who is has a history of being in the spray foam industry. Lightly, he's been around for a couple years, and he's a lifelong sales associate. So he's really good at the sales process. He knows foam. He's passionate about it, and he believes and supports the company. And he's willing to grow with the company. And you know, that's like a golden opportunity for me because I
Mhm.
do want to be able to shift the sales onto somebody and focus on the production, growing teams, and growing the business and creating something that's gonna last. Um, so up until recently, I was doing all the sales, but you kind of like there's only so much bandwidth one human can have. Like if you're selling $1 million a year and you're spraying the shit and you're managing guys and you're training this and that and you got a wife at home and it's like you got dogs to walk at the end of the day, like eventually it boils over.
Yeah.
So you want to be able to, even if the profit's lower, you know, for yourself, your end of the line buck is lower. You got to have a life, and
You
you gotta
talking
have a
about
life.
work-life balance, bro? Is that what you're talking about? Work-life balance? That do these
That's
people like
getting developed.
this?
That's getting developed recently. That's a recent thing, man. Up until recently, my wife's a soldier. I'm lucky to have her. I'm lucky
Yeah.
that she's supportive of me. I'm a firm believer that a good woman for a man will defy you. You know, like if you got a
Truth.
bad woman with bad habits, you're
Yep.
screwed. But if you have a good one
It ruined
behind you,
you.
you know, I really love she's so good, and she supports the hell out of me. If it wasn't for her, this business wouldn't be where it is. That's a fact.
Yeah,
Because support, man, just the support structure.
she's your biggest cheerleader.
Yeah, and she puts her money where her mouth is. You know, a cheerleader's one thing, but like having her actually invest in the business, it's like, wow, I'm really, really flattered by that. You know, so
Wow.
it's really great. Yeah, for sure, it's really a great thing.
That's amazing, man. So what did the transition look like? I mean, I know when you first started this company 7, 8 years ago, it was Rami and probably Rami only, right? And then what was the first position that you hired? And then kind of walk us through like what the progression looked like over, the course of the last 8 years of hiring.
So my first hire is a kid named Christian. He's still with me to this day. He's been with me for 5, 6 years now. He's going on his sixth year, and he's my first full time hire. We did a lot of like hiring. We call them moonlighters, where
Mhm.
guys that they primarily work in the union, and then like when they don't have work, they'll call you and you'll work them for a few days. As a company starting off, almost like everybody does that. You know,
Yeah.
just you can't afford a full time guy yet, so you're kind of just squeaking by, handing cash out. But my first full time guy was Christian. He came to me. He was an insulator, a fiberglass guy, and a blown insulation guy. very good at both, but he was not a spray foamer. So I trained him to be a foamer. And he's good. He can spray. He can put out a set and a half a day, but he
Mhm.
still considers himself more of a fiberglass blown insulation guy. He's not like a foam technician on his own. He's an amazing employee, multifaceted hybrid insulator. But that's really what I was after. I was after insulators that I could lean on. I'll do everything else. I'll do all the admin. I'll do all the sales. I'll do all the logistics, all the ordering. But I need guys that I can leave at job sites that aren't idiots and that are not going
Yeah.
to spray foam a window. They're not going to, hit a window with a hammer tacker or let a ladder fall and hit an $8,000 door, because these houses we work on, we can't afford them. At
Yeah.
one point in time, maybe people around here were working on houses they could afford, but nowadays you can't afford these houses. Some of the houses we work on, I think one of the biggest projects we did was we're talking about the most expensive neighborhood in the world type thing. Like these houses
Mhm.
are 40, $50 million houses. You
Holy
know,
crap.
the window contract on the house is like 12 and $15 million with the windows.
Oh
We're
my
talking about
gosh.
waterproofing contracts that are 350K just to roll Prosecco on a building. Like we're talking about big contracts, and insulation is a small piece of the pie. You go mess up over there, they're gonna really demonize you and make sure you don't get any work on that area ever again. So you gotta, you know, uh, watch your ass, man.
Yeah,
It's
so that's the most important hire in the Bay Area, or maybe it's not just the Bay Area. The most important hire is going to be replacing you as a sprayer and getting somebody on the job site that you can trust.
Yeah, in my opinion, I think you build a good squad of sprayers and installers. You
Mhm.
can you can grow up and put your big boy pants on and go sell, and you can run the business, and you can hire, and you can train, and you can create process. Most importantly, create processes that are repeatable.
Yep.
Um, and then you have a squad of good insulators behind you, that aren't going to mess up. Then you're in good shape. Here, it's hard to get good insulators because one, you at one point in time, the union had acquired all of the good insulators, and the union were under the carpenters union. So the
Mhm.
carpenters union, the pay is incredible. They get paid, 60, $70 an hour take home, and they get an additional $30 worth of benefits. So it's, how do you compete with that as a small business owner? You can't.
Yeah,
But
you can't.
now, basically, COVID happened. It shut down all of the large commercial work out here, and then that put all of the union installers out on the street. So now the union installers are calling me. The union installers are starting their own little bandito shops with no licenses. They're just
Wild
qualified
West.
insulators as far as you can see. But it's like they want too much money, first off, and they are typically not hybrid trained. They are typically only trained for a large commercial job site where they kick their boots around, and they can't deal with the finesse of dealing with some like 80-year-old grandma at her house, and we're doing drill and fill, and we can't get dust on our hardwood floor. They're not those types of people. So
Yeah.
you can bring in the union guys for the heavy hitting stuff, but you can't bring them in to go insulate Spencer's house.
Yeah.
Spencer's gonna be pissed because
He's a
they're gonna
mess.
leave dust everywhere, and you're not gonna be digging it. They're gonna be smoking cigarettes outside, and they're gonna be spitting on the driveway, and it's not gonna be a good situation. So
It's like
so
untrained
it's, yeah, like they're only fit for like job sites. So yeah,
dog.
yeah. So it's a weird thing. But then the union guys, they get paid so well, and they're just trained for this one thing, and then the union just literally disappeared out here. There's no more insulation work for the union. It's done.
That's crazy. It's
It's
crazy.
done. Yeah,
I
it's
mean, it's
crazy.
beneficial for you, obviously, but I think it's crazy that this actually happened. So installer is hire number one, in your opinion. What's
Yes.
hire number two?
You build up your sprayers, your installers, then maybe hire a sales associate to take care of your day to day sales, and then
Mhm.
the owner would essentially move up and start looking at larger projects only, start looking at prospecting repeat clientele, Start
Yeah.
looking at, stuff that your eyes are suited for, stuff that, the $100,000 installation projects that come through the door every once in a while, the 20s, the 30s, the 40s. And then you can have your sales guy go and sell the $4,000 attic, the $5,000 attic, the $6,000 attic all day long, have him go knock those out, make a nice commission, make a good living for himself. And then you just rise up and work on developing relationship style selling while building processes. And then also early hire for us was, because I'm not good in admin. I had to hire a secretary immediately.
Yeah.
Secretary, her name is Catherine. Catherine essentially worked with us like pro bono for like a year. Like she
Whoa.
knew what she was getting involved in. And she's like, look, I believe that your company is going to be my retirement one day. She like believed in me like that. So she literally
Wow.
worked for me for like a year with like no pay. And like,
Jeez.
yeah, now
Shout out
like,
to Catherine, man.
dude, she's like, she's good as it gets. But she worked for me for a year, like investing, and she always reminded me. She's like, "Look, man," she's like, "I'm in here for the long haul." She's like, "You don't understand." She's like, "I paid my dues." I'm like, "I'm not firing you ever. Like, if
Mm-hmm.
anything, I'm probably gonna like chip her off with 5% of the company when it's time to sell, type thing,
Yeah.
because she's super solid, man. They don't make them like that, and
She's an older gal.
yeah, she's a little older than me. She's like 5 years. I'm 36. She's like maybe 30, 39, something like that, 40. And yeah, and she
Not an older gal, bro. Like I was
no,
thinking like
older
a
than
lady
me.
knocking on the door of retirement, like they don't make them like that anymore. But you're talking about
Oh
younger than
no.
me, man.
Oh
I'm
no,
gonna
no,
be
she's not old by
57.
any means. No, I take that back. She's not old by any means. She's just older
Got
than me, is what I meant.
you. Okay.
But yeah, no, she's solid, bro. And she's like did her year pro bono. Now, like I'm so chill with her. Like she has full access to all the accounts. When we have money for her payroll, she pulls the payroll. When we don't have money for her payroll, she eases off. She's like, it's like the best employee you could ever ask for. So unless you
Wow.
have people like that on your team, it's actually really hard to. All these tasks become very draining. You're paying this person X amount of dollars for this. You're paying this person to file this. You're paying this person. You got a guy over here changing tires. You got this guy. It's like, where's all this money coming from? So it's rough on the payroll, but it's all required. It's all part of doing business. We would be out of compliance years ago if it wasn't for Catherine. She keeps on
Yeah.
top of all that stuff, insurances, everything, payroll, boom, she's on it.
She's like the warehouse mother or the shop mom.
She's the mother of the business essentially. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I love
100%.
that. Today's episode is sponsored by Spray Foam Genius Marketing. Let me ask you, is your Google profile still asleep? Because if homeowners search spray foam near me and you are not able to be found, you are invisible. Not only are you invisible, but you're handing jobs over to the guy that has duct tape in his van. We fix that. We take care of your Google business profile, your website, your SEO, all those things that you don't have time for. So you get more calls, more leads, more booked jobs. Visit sprayfoamgeniusmarketing.com and let's turn your foam into fortune. And the thing is, like without Catherine, like this is something that I realized with what you guys do. If you guys are out there spraying, let's say for example, your job is to also answer the phone. I'm sorry, but you guys are not tile guys that can just put down a trowel and answer the phone. When
Right.
you're suited up, gloves, mask, respirator, all this stuff, you're not answering your phone. Let's just be real. You're spraying your job. And anybody that calls these days, if you don't answer, they're on to the competition.
Correct.
And
100%.
so one of the biggest and most important hires is somebody to answer your phone as a business owner. Because if
100%.
not, they're going to be taking the competition will be taking lunch money from you. So that's a huge hire. So let's just recap. First hire is an installer, a sprayer. Second, a salesperson. And somewhere in between there, or thirdly, somebody to answer your phones, do admin, take care of the office stuff. Is there a fourth hire that you'd recommend, Rami, or is that kind of where you guys have stopped with the hiring process for you?
Okay. So we just went back to hire one and repeated it.
Yeah.
So we're back to building our installer base. And I think it's a recycling process. The more
Hmm.
installers you get, the more salesmen you need to
Yeah.
keep them busy, and the more admin you need to provide for your salesmen and your company growth. So I think it's a recycling process. Is one
Agreed.
it's like one hand washes the other. You
Yeah.
need the sales guy, of course, to sell the job, and then you need the proper production team to do the job, and then the production team needs to nurture that process all the way through and make sure that you have a repeating client.
Hmm.
There's so many clients that if you're not calling them up 6 months later, they might have forgot your name. They might be like,
Oh,
man, there was a great installation guy last time, but we don't have his number no more. I got a different phone. So you
oh
call
no.
your backlog, and say, hey, how's that installation working out for you? Got anything else cooking? I know you're sitting on a set of plans, and they quite often they will shoot you something. So
Oh
just
wow.
nurturing your backlog, uh, foresight, and that becomes part number. That's what the owner's doing when you're hiring and building up your team. Then you're growing as the owner, and now you're working on a relationship development, which is like I think the most key part of growing something that's going to last.
Yeah, I think that's really good insight because a lot of the business side of things, I think that's where a lot of spray foam contractors struggle. Like you're talking about, it's really, I mean, I don't want to say easy. I'm not going to take that away from you guys because spraying foam is something extremely difficult. But like what you said, Rami, you get in the zone, you're spraying foam, you're done spraying for the day. You walk home, you don't have to deal with the business garbage. You growing a business, you have all these challenges and being in a position where you're able to start to understand the business and the flow and what it looks like and how do you become successful. Plus there's all the politics and all the other responsibilities of bills having to get paid and all this pressure, right? It's not as glorious as people want to paint it. But on the flip side, it is 1,000,000% better than working for somebody else. I know that for sure because I used to do that before
Me
I was a
too.
business owner and
Yes.
and such. But what would you say is like one of the things that has accelerated your guys' growth? Is there one thing or that you would say like if I didn't do this or for all the newbies listening, like I mean the one thing that I think is really genius is you reaching back out and continuing this relationship with these past customers or clients or builders or generals that you guys have relationships with. Is there something outside of that? Because I think that's something that kind of as a business owner, part of me, I'm like, why would they forget Rami? Like you got a great personality. You guys obviously do great work. But on the flip side, you're saying, okay, maybe they got a new phone. Maybe they lost our contact. What is it? So that's an interesting concept that you have to touch base every maybe quarter with guys to just be top of mind to them. Is there something besides that you guys can attribute to your business growth?
There was a big shift when we started getting loyal to our supplier, like real loyalty, no more entertaining any other brands, mastering the product that we want to work with, and just repeating the process and getting guys once you master a foam, like the process is like second nature.
Hmm.
Okay, this product requires mixing, this product requires recirculation, the barrel needs to be warm. You spray it X amount of pressure, you spray it X amount of heat. Um, and once you start getting in the groove with one product, I think it allows you to take your mind away from like product selection, because that is a subject that you should not be thinking about as a business owner. You should be thinking about making money. You shouldn't be thinking about what foam spray is better out there. The
Yeah.
urethane is urethane. You should basically be focused on a supplier that supports you wholeheartedly and a supplier that's not going to add any additional stress onto your life. Somebody might have the best spray foam on the market, but if it's a rigid corporate structure where the moment I go over 30-day terms, they're literally knocking my door down, I don't need that in my life. I simply just don't.
Hmm.
So really just find a supplier that's willing to work with you like you're willing to work with them, establish a price point that's going to work for your market, and move forward accordingly. Don't be jumping around consistently. That whole jumping around shit is, it's a waste of time. It's a waste of effort. And you honestly waste a lot of materials at the end of the year through all the changeovers. And you're going to get a little bit of contamination sitting around in your shop, shifting from supplier to supplier. It's just not worth it. So just choose your supplier, put blinders on about the rest of the market. I don't give a shit what nobody else is spraying. We spray what we spray, and we just move forward. We just sell jobs and spray them. And ever since I stopped stressing about like, oh, what's the new cool market product on, it took a whole bunch of thought off my plate. I just don't even fucking think about it. I don't want to. We spray open cell and we spray closed cell, and the product we spray are clean. We don't got to change our filters all the time. They grow good. They don't stink too bad, and that's it. Just move on.
At SPFA show in Daytona, I want to say there was like over 36 foam manufacturers there. It even might have been more. And that's quite overwhelming. And to me, I as an outsider that doesn't spray foam, I kind of question, I'm like, what is the difference in all this stuff, right? It's almost like somebody's recipe is a little bit different, and then they package it up. It's like, well, they're all cookies, aren't they? But they all have a little bit of different thing in it, And so it can be extremely overwhelming. Who is it that you guys spray? Like what product have you guys fell in love with that you can stay consistent with?
So we like on the open cell side of things, we use UPC, the Max Pro 500, just really high yield. In your learning curve with it, you might deal with some dimensional stability issues, like some shrinkage and stuff. But once you get dialed in with that product, you can be deadly fast, like really produce like insane amounts of production. It sprays great. It has good adhesion to itself. And amongst the most important thing is the yield is just outrageous. It just grows like a big dog. And then on the closed cell, we have a real good relationship with a product line called Excelis Building Solutions. They're out of the East Coast. They're smaller guys, but we like their team. We like the support we receive from them. We ask for documentation. We get it immediately. And they have low VOCs, so we have a ability to get the homeowners into the house a little quicker, stuff like that, when we're doing attics and crawl spaces. And so we really like those two brands. And more importantly is they just work with us, man. We just feel like they're willing to work with us. And that's the most important part.
Are these companies
sorry about that.
Noble?
Yeah, it's Noble.
What's up? Noble made an appearance on the show.
Yeah, come here, Noby.
What these manufacturers, are they ones that you guys started off with initially when you first started the company, or was that something that you guys eventually got to?
We eventually got to these through just UPC was like a lot of friends in the industry that I've known for a few years ended up working there and stuff like that. And they vouched for the product. So I was like, okay, maybe we'll give it a shot. And our local supplier is a real nice guy and real easy to work with. So we're happy with them. And they're a California, General Coatings is like, they're like paired up, UPC in general, right? General Coatings is in California. So like, if we can, we'll support a California company if that makes any sense, right? And then Excelis, they're on the East Coast. But we originally were we sprayed everything, man. We'd have a guy come in the shop, hey, want to try our foam? It's like, yeah, sure. Now we just shut everybody down. Like, no, we're not. Unless you're giving us free foam, a free set, we don't want you even calling us, because it's just too much effort, too much thought is going into that. If you don't need to be thinking about that, don't. Just move forward with whoever you like and just forget about it.
All you manufacturers out there, you just heard Rami say, if you're not giving a free set, so it sounds to me, if you want to get his business, you got to give some free sets.
At least one set.
He's very loyal. So it's going to take probably more than one set to get him to make a switch, but there's the foot in the door. I know we briefly touched on this, and you're talking about people coming in, spending $100K, starting a spray foam business. and being out there and being in competition with you, we like to talk about regulation on this show and what that looks like. And everybody has their opinion on it. Yes, no, it needs to be like this, it needs to be like that. But what's Rami's opinion on regulation, and what would that look like? Do you feel? I mean, you obviously have the years of experience in this business. So, what does that look like to you? And do you think that helps prevent, guys starting up a company because it gives them friction? Hey, Spray Foam Contractor. Imagine if there was a button on your phone that you could hit that said more jobs. You press it and boom, leads start coming in, calls start ringing, and now finally you're not wondering where's your next customer coming from. That's basically what Spray Foam Genius Marketing does. We optimize your Google business profile and your SEO and your website so that when people are ready to buy from you, you come up at the top of the Google search. More visibility, more calls equals more jobs. No weird contracts. And go ahead and check out sprayfoamgeniusmarketing.com so that we can get your genius button installed today. You're not just a contractor, you're a CEO of a spray foam business. But if you're not getting found online, you're still playing small. Spray Foam Genius Marketing takes your business from meh to magnetic. Want to grow like a CEO? Book your strategy call today at sprayfoamgeniusmarketing.com.
Well, we do have a barrier of entry, the California State License Board. You do have to pass a test. You do have to know how to insulate. You have to have some basic knowledge to get that test. But just because you're an insulator, it doesn't mean you're a spray foamer. So there does have to be some secondary certification of spray foam. I don't know what entity that would be to enforce that. I don't know if it would be like a state thing or a nationwide thing. I don't know like how it would look. But I do know that it needs to exist. I know in Canada that they have some sort of color coding system for their closed cells that lets you know that this color is this brand of foam. And the reason they do that is because you can't claim like false claim foams, because you could get some just cheap foam with a low R value or something like that, and then claim it's a premium product if they're all the same color. So at least if they're different colors, that kind of helps. I think they're onto something with that. They don't have any of that regulation in the United States. So I think that would be the first step, is maybe some sort of color coding. Maybe follow suit with Canada. At least they're trying to do something. But the thing is there's like nobody checking job sites in California if somebody's licensed or anything like that. I know that happens other places, but the CSLB is not rolling around checking for licensed contractors or not. So I think the biggest issue is non-licensed people operating, stealing work, because you should have a license. If you want to do this job, you should bare minimum have a license. You should have some experience. And then in terms of like an actual enforcing agency, it would have to be, veterans of the business. And then who's going to decide who's the veterans of the business? Who's going to, there has to be some way to determine it. I know there's a lot of good work being done by the SPFA and stuff like that. I would imagine that they would be, maybe a key part in making something like that happen. Do you think it's hard for me to say?
The regulation, do you think that comes from the manufacturer side of like checking licenses? Would that be a good spot for that? Because
that'd be a great spot.
Because then they technically couldn't sell to somebody that wasn't licensed.
I mean, what are you doing buying spray foam if you don't have a license? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's always going to be a black market. I feel for like anything, the Wild West is always going to happen. But on the flip side, if you're a legit company, like you're talking about some of these big names, UPC, and I'm caught selling foam to somebody unlicensed, well, that is a huge thing that you would not want people to find out about. And so
I agree. Yeah, for sure.
I think it starts as a manufacturer of like them checking the licenses. Do you think that a good spot to start would be like the SPF PPC program where you can get certified? At least you'd have some general understanding of foam and what it, how it acts in the science.
Yeah, that's a good starting point. Um, yeah, there has to be some sort of training program, an official training program, because we were really lucky on getting the training that we got. The best training you can possibly get as a spray foam installer is there's a video that Gusmer put out it's like pretty much looks like it was filmed right after black and white. Like it's like the first like color film.
Camcorder.
Yeah, it's really like you could tell it's old, but it's a Gusmer video, and it literally teaches you everything you need to know about spray foam. If you can pay attention through that 3-part video, it teaches you so much. There's so much information in there, and most people don't even know about it, and that's a
Mhm.
wild to me. So that's a good starting point, you know. But that short little training stuff, one day shooting some foam on a wall, I mean, it's cool, but there's more to this business.
Yeah.
Given that you could ruin somebody's home if you don't do it right, there's got to be something a little more strict than that for sure.
Have you guys had a lot of projects where you guys went in to fix bad foam that people had sprayed?
One, notably, there was one all the way, it was like 5 or 6 hours away from us, and the guy couldn't find a qualified installer out there. So we did him the favor in traveling and staying overnight. And we had to remove open cell of a particular, I don't want to mention manufacturers, but of a particular manufacturer had a really strong, sweet odor throughout the house. The owner said it was making him sick. It was making his wife sick. You know, we dug out the foam. He bought one of those ice blasters to like blast into the crevices and behind the wiring and stuff, stripped it out completely. And then we sprayed, I think it was 2 or 3 inches of, he was against foam. He's like, I don't want foam back in my house. But I'm like, there's no way to seal it we have to spray foam. I actually got Chaz Costa involved. I hit him up.
Shout out to the wizard.
I hit up some other people just kind of for some help, and he was helpful. We shot him a piece of foam. He tested it. Sure enough, the foam was bad. And we sprayed 2 or 3 inches of Excellus close cell in there. It sealed it up real nice, and no odor after that. And the guy he left a great review on our page, and we felt good about it. We traveled like 5 or 6 hours to do it. You know, it was worth it. We sacrificed, man. We drove far to do that shit. Like, it was pretty rough.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And it's you did it because you felt bad for the guy. I mean, gosh, if he couldn't find a qualified installer in, 5-6 hours away from him, especially in heavily populated California, that says something, and there's this every installer that we've had on here, every foam business owner, every person that we've had has a story like that, Rami. It's quite shocking. And I think the one thing that Canada has going for it is they have to have logs, and they have to document everything.
That's
and
great.
I think that would be hugely beneficial, because obviously everything can be fibbed. Like, let's just be real. Truck drivers have to carry a log, and they're like, "Oh, I haven't been driving for 24 hours. I've only been driving for 8," and their
Right.
bloodshot eyes and falling asleep. And obviously you can fib some of that. But on the flip side of things, I mean, there just needs to be that, because if you're not logging your day-to-day operation, that's the first thing a foam manufacturer is going to ask for if there is supposedly bad foam. Well, what are the logs? What's what's the density test look like? And I don't have any of that. Well, then they're not gonna take responsibility for it. So it's kind of covers you on the homeowner side of things, as well as it's making some friction to, like, this is a real problem, and you could really hurt somebody's home or health by not doing what's proper. And honestly, majority of homeowners out there, they don't know shit about shit.
No.
When they look at the foam. And like you said, like, you went in and this guy him and his wife were sick from this, improper mixed foam. And, I've described this in the past. It's really like you guys are chemists out in the field with like a mobile lab, and you're mixing
100%.
things up. And it just sounds to me, from somebody that doesn't know what you guys do, as it's crazy to me that there's not regulation on this. It's like, a plumber comes into your home. Yes, they could cut a water line. You could have a huge water leak, but once you get things dried out, things are okay. An electrician, same thing. Yes, he's, dealing with something that could kill you instantly. He shuts off the main breaker, does the electrical work. You're back in business. Not like an electrician can screw up your home and where it costs, 20, 30, 40, $50,000 just to remove and redo a job. Like that's crazy.
Yeah. Yep.
So sounds to me like you're for regulation. What that
For
looks
sure.
like is obviously, I think personally, and maybe you did mention it. It comes from the OGs, the guys like yourself that have been in this business for a long time, of setting that proper expectation, what it looks like. And then I think it becomes the long-term play is the educating of the homeowners. Like, why should I use Noble insulation versus, cheapinsulation.com? And you're like, well, do they have the seal of approval? Do they have this license? What is the badge that a person's looking for on their
Very good
website
point.
or within their marketing materials? Because, um, you know, it's almost like the Better Business Bureau, even though we all know it's a scam. People are like, oh, the older generation's like, oh, they're approved by the Better Business Bureau, like that's some like sanctioning organization versus
Right.
a paid membership. But people are brainwashed to know, like, oh, they got that badge on their marketing material. If there was like a SPFA PPC certified company badge or something, then you could say, well, they're cheaper because they're not certified. Oh, I didn't realize there was certification, or whatever the case is. That makes sense, Rami. That's why we should go with you, is because you have this badge. All your sprayers have this badge. You're
That's
licensed.
beautiful.
You're accredited. Whatever the case is, right? Are you a fan of some form of like an apprentice program before a person could actually purchase a rig and start a company? Do you think that would fit in this trade?
I do. I think what we're seeing now is the opposite of that. Is like if it was a pendulum and regulation was like one way or the other. I think we're seeing the pendulum on the complete other side, where there's not enough. There's like, I call them banditos. Guys are just jumping in. The bandito guys, they're just jumping in. So yeah, apprenticeship program would be ideal. And then back to the logs you were saying, as the new equipment gets more advanced, they provide memory, like in there. The new Graco R3, you can look at what you sprayed that day, how many gallons of each material, and it gives you your information for that day.
That's through an app too, right? That's stored in an app. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, it's either on the machine or in an app if you have it set up on your phone. And then there's other measures. Basically you want to capture the spray parameters of the day, how hot it was, what were your ambients and your substrates, your temperatures and whatnot, your moisture levels of the substrate. They need to know all that. And then also your barrel temperature, your spray parameters, your pressures, and then lastly your batch number. On the can, you pull your batch number. If you gather all that on every single job site, and then you take it a step further and you actually cut a small little sample of the foam that was applied in the house, throw it in a Ziploc bag and store it in some filing cabinet with your job pamphlet stapled to it, that's your bulletproof way of covering your butt.
Yeah.
How many actual installers do that? How many contractors out there do that? I would say a very small percentage for sure.
Is that something that you guys, a process that you guys have implemented at Noble?
Not on every single job. We do them on the high end jobs where we're like, look, this one goes bad. We got to have something. But just your average, crawl space spray or something. No, we don't. But we should be doing it on every single one for sure.
Yeah, I mean, because that sounds bulletproof. If there is ever a lawsuit, you're like, oh, hold on, let me show you all this data. Oh, here's a chunk of the foam. Like, if you want to cut this off and send it out to a lab, you feel free. Like you've covered your ass. Like, there's nobody that's going to be covering things like that. So, and I think it's left up to so much interpretation too. I mean, maybe somebody's getting sick because of some other reason and they just blame the foam. And if you don't have this background or this history on the project, you could be wrapped up in a lawsuit with a homeowner.
100%. 100%.
Yeah, we
All
live
it
in
takes
Sue
is
Happy.
one bad homeowner. I'm
We
sorry,
live
what
in
was
Sue
that?
Happy America. We live in Sue Happy America. So of
Yeah.
course people are always looking to sue the shit out of people. So
All day.
what a great idea for a practice. That's the first I've heard of this, Rami. So like, I think it's amazing. Do you guys spray with this Graco machine?
We have one R2 and one R3. We've had a total of 5 rigs throughout the
Mhm.
years. 3 of them were like home built kind of deals, and then
Yeah.
we stepped into the more professional equipment once we could afford it. But I'm big on the E30s. I'm an E30 guy. I know everybody's a hydraulic person, but I grew up spraying on an E30, the old style E30. So that's just the equipment that I understand. And yeah, I mean, the brand new E30 is it's a beast, you know. It's
I've heard
and all that.
some good things about that machine. So
It's a great one.
Rami, it's been amazing having you on. I think we're well over an hour, but
All
those
right.
that want to connect with you, man, those that want to connect with Noble Installation, connect with you, how do they get in touch?
So you can find us on the socials, Noble Installation, Noble Installation on Instagram, Noble Installation on Facebook. You can reach us on our website, www.noble-installation.com. And you can see me. I'm on Spray Foam Worldwide. If you have any questions, any tech questions, stuff like that, you're up and comer, you need some help. I'm always here to help out the youngsters.
I love that, man. This community is most definitely. I haven't came across an OG, a legend like yourself that doesn't want to pour in, that doesn't want to pour into the young generation of this business. I just, everybody shocks me by how much they are willing to help others within this community, and I think it's very unique. I applaud you guys all to knowing that you're growing the next generation of foamers and that they're going to be way better off than where you were, when you first started 20 years ago. So much love to you about that, man. I really appreciate you having coming on the show and sharing your journey from foam to fortune. And I wish you the continued best with the business, man. I can't wait to hear one day that you hit that 10 million mark.
Thank you so much, Spencer. It's been a pleasure for sure.
Yeah, man. Have a good rest of your evening. Thanks,
You
Rami.
too, buddy.
Take
Okay,
care.
see ya.